State, located in the southwestern part of Nigeria, is a land of contrasts. With a population ranking 25th in the country and a landmass of over 20,000 square kilometers, it may not be the largest state, but it's large enough to harbor decades-old territorial disputes. It's largely peaceful here. Everything seems slow-paced. The residents move at their own speed, like they have more time in the day than the rest of the world. Just by watching the residents of Oshogbo, the state capital, you would never guess there is a deadly boundary dispute happening just less than 30 minutes away from here. Ifon, Ilobu, and Oshun, 3 communities nestled within its borders, have been locked in a bitter struggle, fueled by claims and counterclaims over land. The tensions have boiled over into violence, leaving destruction and more confusion behind. The scars of conflict run deep, leaving one question: can peace be restored to this troubled land? A few weeks before my trip to Osun State, there was another communal clash on the 19th of April in Irekpodu and Orolu local council areas. Let's take a step backward to previous attacks. We begin with the development in Osun State, where Governor Ademola Adeleke has declared a 24-hour curfew in Ifon and Ilobu communities after natives raised concerns over what they described as renewed attacks allegedly from the Ifon and Oshun community. Usually, when there is a communal clash in this area, every man tends to protect his land, in the process attacking the other, destroying houses, cars, and businesses. There were reports of attacks in January and March this year, with allegations and counter-allegations from each community. No one wants to own up to starting the recent communal clashes. They claim they only defended themselves from the other communities.
By February, around February 14 or 15, we just discovered that some of our farmers were going to their farm, and early in the morning, they discovered that the road that leads to their farm were already blocked. They pile up some trees, so many rumbush to prevent them from gaining entrance into the farm. Before they know it, bulldozer was working, and they were removing palm trees, kola nuts trees, cocoa trees, cashew trees. All the economic trees were being removed by Ilobu. Who could do this? So we reported to the police. Police says they cannot. It is not their duty to come into the land matters. Okay. We reported to the government. The government said that was when the committee was already sitting. The government said that they will send the securities operatives to come and check the place. We reported to the committee. Committee says that we should be patient and allow them to do their job. So I have to call my people to exercise patience. A lot of people, families, source of livelihood were demolished, were destroyed. They burned down their trees, they burned down their farms, they removed them, and the next thing we see after 1 week was that Ilobu started selling the land. And as if that was not enough, he brought a signpost and put it Oba Ashiru Olaniyan Housing Estate. People's farm. So they continue selling, and people that bought the land from them started construction. They started building their houses, fencing and putting some shops in front. When they finished selling, they exhausted the land. They now enter another land again, another compound's land again. They started pulling down the palm trees and renaming the place. The place initially was Bere Odofin. They now rename it as Bere Onireke, and people should come and buy land. That was when we now said, this one, we cannot wait again. When we got to the deputy governor's office, he advised us. He told us that everybody should stop doing anything until what the committee determines, that we should allow peace to reign. That was just all we took from there. As we reached house, we got home. Everybody went to sleep. Around 11, we just started hearing gunshots. They were pursuing people. They were shooting at them. They were burning houses. And I look outside. I look afar. I saw houses on fire. That was when I knew that there is a problem. That was what started all this wahala. So we have to call our own vigilantes too, to go and repel them from coming into the town. So we now stop them from coming. So when they now saw that no, it wasn't attack. We didn't attack. You know, you attack when you are prepared for something. It was unprepared matter. We didn't prepare for it. We did not prepare for it.
When relative peace was restored, the Osun State Governor, Ademola Adeleke, relaxed the 24-hour curfew to a 17-hour curfew with heavy patrol of not just the local police, but men of the Nigerian army. Weeks later, the governor directed that the previous 17-hour curfew imposed on the three warring communities of Ilobu, Ifon, and Osun be relaxed to 12 hours. That happened on the 8th of April. While business is picking up for some in the main town, communities in the contentious areas are still deserted. The town looks slightly crowded, most of them scared to return to their homes, schools, or farms. Many have decided to stay in town to enjoy a moment of respite. The smiles you see on their faces hide the despair, pain, and anger they feel. When invaders came with machetes, guns, tires, and petrol to burn their houses down, some of the people here had to flee with nothing but the clothes on their back and whatever their hands could carry. But soon enough, their supplies depleted, and going back home to whatever was left was still too dangerous. The border dispute dates back to the 1950s, when the first court case between Ifon and Ilobu was heard.
1924, the Olufan went to Alafin. Ilobu is my grandson. I want to have a common boundary between me and him. Please come and do boundary between us. Alafin now directed Olufan Obaba Nkesa to get across to the district officer that was residing in Osogbo as at that time, that since the colonial masters has come and they have their district, they call them DO then that time. District officer then was Captain Ross. He is the one in position to do the boundary for you and your grandson, because by history that we met and that is in the archives of National Archive of Nigeria, Ilobu is a grandson of Olufan. That is, Olobu is a grandson of Olufan. The land was granted to them, to Olobu, by his grandfather, who happens to be Olufan. Olufan recalled back to Captain Rose to come and do the boundary for him. It was Captain Rose that now said the bridge of Elentiri River will be the boundary towards the old wall of Iyalode. There is a wall that we call Iyalode in Ilobu in those days. So that wall, as it's called, goes down to Osolo Farm, going towards Ilobu or Barut. So towards that part, crossing that part, going to Okpamolu stream, That was how it was explained. Then, by the confluence of the Opomolu River into the Erinle River, by that confluence of the Opomolu stream that flows into Erinle Owala River, that is what the Captain Ross made as a boundary between Ifon and Ilobu. In 1954, that was 30 years after 1954, the then Ilobu now rushed to court and said he did not understand the interpretations of Captain Ross' boundary. That was when the problem started.
The Ross Commission boundary you talked about, the history behind it is that sometimes in 1917, there arose dispute over a parcel of land along Okpakpa Road. Part of it is now Okekutu. When this boundary dispute rose and they could not settle this thing among themselves, they referred the matter to colonial master. And the colonial master came around to demarcate the boundary for the two communities. And that boundary is being referred to today as Ross boundary. But no survey was attached to the boundary to know the features that will be taken into recognition for the boundary between the two communities. In 1945, Oba Bankesa Akinyoye I now employed a surveyor called Surveyor Gibbert to demarcate the boundary. But unfortunately, in the process of demarcating the boundary, Surveyor Gibbert went beyond the boundary that was demarcated by Captain W.A. Ross. This brought about another issue between the two communities. And the then Olobo of Ilobu, Oba Sanusi Adebimpe Araoye, now refer the dispute to a customary court at Osogbo to settle the dispute for them. But Ifon also objected to the forum, insisting that the matter should be heard in a neutral place, and it was transferred to Ikirun native court. So at Ikirun native court, where Ilobu shown to the court to be the boundary, was upheld by the court. Again, they went back to High Court in the case between Oba J.O. Akinyoye versus Aminu Siyanbola in suit number HOY/20-1970. They now asked the court to demarcate the boundary in that particular case. So, but their case was dismissed, but because they were unable to prove that they are first settler, where they said the boundary is, Ilobu disputed it, and the court upheld the submission of Ilobu community, wherein the court held that Ilobu is the first to have been settled here on the authority of La Rose, who was the founder of Ilobu community and migrated from Oyole to this place.
Everyone is holding on to a different history. Ilobu and Ifon both believe they are the owners of the land, the first settlers that gave part of their land to the other community, an indication that their dispute is beyond land. They can't simply agree on their history. Lukman Akorede was a youth leader in Ifon. When anyone in the community needed more supplies from sacked communities, he was the point guard, ensuring everyone came back to town safe.
Ọ̀rẹ́ mi gidi ni Mr. Lukman Akorede tó jẹ́ pé a kì í fi ọ̀rọ̀ pamọ́ fúnra wa tó fi débi ọ̀rọ̀ community gan anything tá bá fẹ́ ṣe èmi àti ẹ̀mejì lájọ máa ń tẹ̀léra wa káàkiri lórí bí community ó sì dá bálàfẹ́ ó sì jọba ní community so èèyàn dáadáa ni.
On the 17th of April, Lukman and two others went back to the deserted town to help this man known as Gideon Oyelaki. They wanted to carry some supplies from his home, but this would later become Lukman's last trip.
A débẹ̀ báyìí ẹni tí bọ́ sí inú ilé ẹni wọ́n kó mọ́dé gbogbo àwọn community yẹn pé kí lẹ wá ṣe ẹ wá jólé wa ẹ wá ṣe kí ni ṣé kí lẹ rí lọ́wọ́ wa àgbépo dání àmúṣà náà dání ní Akóredé wa ń sọ fún wọn pé kí ní sẹ́yìn pípù yìí báyìí pé gọ́fúnà bá wa sọ̀rọ̀ pé kí peace reign ẹ tún wá ń lọ kó bọn irú èèyàn wo ni yín báyìí náà so ibẹ̀ láti wáyé pé Gideon bọ́ta kúrò nílé o àwọn Ilobu yìí wọ́n ti dé o so gẹ́ndẹ̀ wọ́n hóòdì mi wọ́n hóòdì ẹni yìí wọ́n hóòdì òun náà wọ́n kó wa lọ síwájú mo rò wọ́n ti pe baálẹ̀ wọn gbogbo wọn ti àṣẹ̀mbù síwájú lé baálẹ̀ wọn tí wọ́n pè ní àwíṣẹ́ tó lóbu fi jẹ baálẹ̀ síbẹ̀ wọ́n kó àwọn mẹ́rẹ̀ẹ̀rin dé wájú rẹ̀ so ibẹ̀ ni àwíṣẹ́ ti ń sọ wípé ẹ mú Akóredé àti Gideon yìí ẹ lọ pa wọ́n.
Adébẹ̀ àwọn bíi 6 àwọn ní di Lukman Akóredé ni wọ́n dì mú ní bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní sáládàṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ wọ́n yẹ gbogbo ara ẹ̀ wò wọ́n rí pé kò sí oògùn lára ẹ̀ kò sẹ́nìtìn lára ẹ̀ wọ́n kàn àwọn bíi 6 yẹn wọ́n kàn sọ sílẹ̀ lẹ́ẹ̀kan náà ẹni tí ó yìnbọn ti dúró ní iwájú ọkàn gbébọn fún ni bó ti ṣubú nìyẹn bó sáré sí báwọn yòókù náà bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe bòmí nìyẹn wọ́n ti kọ́kọ́ sá mi ládàá ojú àdá yẹn ń bẹ ní ìtàn mi bíbáyìí àti ibi ẹ̀yìn bíbáyìí wọ́n ti sá mi ládàá tẹ́ ti lù mí mọ́lẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ nìkan ti dé ní inú wọn nìyẹn ó bá ní Gideon ó dákọ̀ mo ní èmi ni ó ní bó wa ó lọ́wọ́n àga bó wa la wá fi ṣe ọ̀rọ̀ báyìí mo ní ẹ dákun ẹ ṣáà ṣàánú mi náà ní ẹjọ́ mo fọ́ lọ́nba bẹ́ẹ̀ ẹ dákun bó sáà ń bẹ̀ wọ́n bí mo ṣe ń bẹ̀ wọ́n ni mò ń sun ẹkún wọ́n bá lọ da wọ́n ní kò sí wàhálà ọ̀kan bá dà nínú wọn ó ní yóò sọ o wọ́n á sọ mílẹ̀ pé ṣé màá sọ mo ní mi ò ní sọ anything ó ní yóò sọ ó ní ẹ pa o.
ìgbà tóun tún padà dé onìkan náà mú padà dé pẹ̀lú báàgì Akóredé àti fóònù ẹ̀ wọ́n wá bí òun náà léèrè pé ẹ̀yin mélòó lẹ wá àwa 4 la wá ẹnìkẹrin yín kọ́ òun náà wá ní ó ti sá lọ.
n tó jẹ́ kí n sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ ni pé torí wọ́n ti búra fún mi tí n bá dẹ̀ tún sọ pé àwa 4 ni pẹ́ niyẹn ò sá lọ wọ́n ó padà pa àwa 3 tá kù wọ́n á padà pa wá ní ibẹ̀ a lè rìn bó ṣe yẹ o kò síbi nǹkan tí à ń lọ inú ilé náà là ń dúró sí torí àmọ́ ẹni tó ń sọ ni kọ́lọ́ dáhùn kó ṣàbòbò wa ni inú ilé là ń dúró sí ẹni tó ní tọ́rọ́ kọ́bọ̀ náà fún wa tí a fi ń jẹun a lè lọ síbi kankan.
The community shares in that loss. The pain is evident on their faces. The people are unhappy with the gruesome murder of Lukman Akóredé. They are praying to their gods to avenge the death of one of their own. The Olufon of Ifon is seeking the cooperation of the communities to support the family. They are planning to open an endowment fund to support his 2 wives and his children. The death of their husband, Lukman Akóredé, is too much for the wives to bear alone. The community wants to take up some of the burden. One by one, the representatives dropped their widow's mite to launch a foundation for the family of Akóredé. Since the attack in April, many have refused to return home for fear of dangers that may be lurking around their now empty homes. They leave the palace with unease, doubt, and a silent prayer that the next day brings something more pleasant. According to the locals, Mr. Lukman's mutilated body was found behind the school. The police found his remains under a tree. His body, without a head, limbs, and internal organs. It's a short walk from the school to his home. Just like most residents in Ilobu community, Akóredé's wives have since left their home with their children to live with families in town. Living too close to where their husband's mutilated body was discovered would be too much. His death is still too heavy for them to bear.
Mo lọ bí 24 years báyìí tá ti jọjọ ń bára wa bọ̀. So mo ṣe bímọ, mo ti rí àwọn ọmọ tó dàgbà. But àtijọ́ tí ọkọ wa ti kú báyìí, kò sí olùbádámọ̀ràn. So ẹ mọ̀ pé bí mo ṣe jẹ́ ìyálé bùkátà mi ti ẹ̀fà pọ̀ gidi gan. Ó dẹ̀ ti fi mi débi pé kò sí ọjọ́ tí mo lè jí báyìí tí mi ní sunkún. Kò sí kódà tí mo bá ń kírun lọ́wọ́ bá tó máa sunkún tó rọ́ jẹ́ ìbànújẹ́ gidigidi fún mi torí tí a respect nímọ̀ràn 20 years olódédé ṣẹlẹ̀ sí mi báyìí mo wá bí àwọn ìjọba mo ràn wá lọ́wọ́ àkàn wà wọ̀sùn ní inú ilé wa a lè lọ bẹ́ẹ̀ àwọn ọmọ school gan àwọn school wọn ti bírèkì báyìí akàn wà pé kí kálukú ó fi ràn wá lọ́wọ́ ní báyìí mo kódà àti jẹ àti mu ó lágbára wàláhì tàlẹ́ ó ní agbára kò sí tó yẹ nìkan dákun olùrànlọ́wọ́ là ń béèrè mo dákun orí bùkátà yìí pọ̀.
àti ilé padà sílé báyìí àtàwọn ọmọ kan ń wọ̀ káàkiri ni látàrí ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ tó ṣẹlẹ̀ yẹn pẹ̀lú gbogbo mọ́ ṣe fún ọkọ mi ṣé irú àwọn tó ṣe irú aburú bẹ́ẹ̀ àwọn kan tó tún wà lọ́wọ́ wọn.
The Ilobu community has vehemently denied allegations that the Abale ordered Mr. Lukman's murder. According to them, these claims are unfounded. Law enforcement agencies are trying to uncover the truth behind Mr. Lukman's death. With witnesses testifying and evidence being examined, the pursuit of justice remains the top priority, not just for the police, but for the community.
Akorede was escorting his friend to go and pick some of his clothes in his house. That was when he was attacked, overpowered, and not only killed, but his body was dismembered. They cut away his head, they took away his arms and legs. Lukman Akorede has children, has wife. And justice, peace can only be placed on justice. So government should please allow the criminal aspect of it to go the proper way. The civil aspect, we can overlook it. But the criminal aspect, the government should please don't intervene.
This is one of the contentious communities. The name? It depends on which community you choose to believe. Ifon calls it Ahorafi. In Ilobu, it is Ayedade. Ahorafi Community School was destroyed during the Communal Clash. The school is built on coveted land. The school signpost was destroyed in the clash. The only indication this building was ever a school are the writings on the blackboard. Probably the lessons from the day before invaders came tearing the building down.
So, primary school, Ifon. So, lẹ́yìn tó já sí pé ìgbà tí crisis dé làwọn ológun tó ra ilẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ fún níbí báyìí. Ni wọ́n jó ní náà báyìí.
That was like in February, March.
February, March.
But can you reason the video?
Wọ́n claim ilẹ̀ náà ni pé ìgbà táwọn ti ra ilẹ̀ níbí báyìí ó ti jí táwọn nìyẹn.
So gbogbo bí báyìí tá ti ń rí Ayédáadé
Ìlóbù. Yóò Ifon ló ní gbogbo ẹ̀ bá oró afin ní báwọn. Torí pé majority wọn ló ra ilẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ Ifon lọ́wọ́ afin níbí báyìí. Ní àwọn kọ Ìlóbù sí ìdílé báwọn. Ìjọba wàrà lé wọn lórí bọ́ọ̀lù lára lè báwọn.
So ṣé àwọn ọmọ wọn wá sí school tẹ́lẹ̀?
Àwọn ọmọ wọn kan wá síbẹ̀, àwọn mẹ́rin wá, àwọn mẹ́fà wá síbẹ̀.
So àwọn ti jó school yìí sí ní school wo láwọn lọ?
Báyọ̀ pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ lè padà sí gbòòrò.
So kò sẹ́ni ń lo school mọ́ báyìí?
Ìjọba tó lò wọ́n pé wọ́n ti jóná kò sọ́mọdé abẹ́ kó síbẹ̀.
The question in everyone's mind is, why can't they find common ground? Is it pride, ignorance, or greed that's driving the stalemate? And what is holding the government from stepping in to broker a lasting solution? The drums greet the chiefs and ballers of the community, but in the silence of the beats, you will see the grief on their faces. They too have lost loved ones, property, and their peace to the land.